There are some certain cardinal characters or criteria that ensures a free, fair and credible election. And up till now, I haven't seen anything on the horizon that indicates us in the direction that we are going to have a free, fair and credible election. Despite the fact that not having a free, fair and credible election will also have its own consequences on the country itself. You see, if you look at it, the Independent National Electoral Commission, which is supposed to be the electoral body, needs to be credible, unbiased, competent, and not influenced by either political pressure or government pressure. Political pressure as in political party of the ruling governing party or the government of the day. That is one. There has to be an enabling environment where people will exercise their civic franchise freely. That is not available in, maybe if you take a rough estimate, about 20% of the northern part of the country. There are crises. People are mass migrating in so many areas in Sokoto State. There are crises in Zamfara State. There are crises in Borno State. There are crises in Niger, Kaduna State. Of recent, Kwara, Kogi, Edo State. Plateau has been on the burner for a while. And that is going to impair people's ability to exercise their franchise. That is true.
You're surely not putting that on INEC, are you?
Well, I'm not putting that on INEC because I'm not supposed to put that on INEC. What I'm putting on INEC is the last statement that I'm going to bring about now, which is for elections to be free, fair, and credible, the Independent National Electoral Commission should come out with a clear template of how it intends to run the elections. It should give free, fair opportunities to all political parties, free, fair opportunities to all candidates, and it should promptly release results. And it should also tell Nigerians the mode which it's going to use in releasing such results. Are we going to still have glitches that we have in 2023? Are we going to still abandon the IREBs that we expended a humongous amount of money to procure? Is the results going to be transmitted real time? These are the things that I'm going to put on INEC. But mark you, you have now an Independent National Electoral Commission whose chair wrote a legal brief, Amupitan, a legal brief with some international communities. And on that legal brief, in the concluding part of that legal brief, on page 108, he called for an international commission of inquiry to be set up to investigate Christian genocide in Nigeria. 2, to impose sanctions on the state. 2. Thirdly, he called for the use of UN forces, AU forces, ECOWAS forces on the country. This is somebody now that is the chairman of our electoral body, who is going to be the decider who will announce who wins the election come 2027. He has completely shown his bias, because in that report they made mention of Christian killings in some part of the country, but one will be surprised to see that in the table where they mentioned 3 gender-based killings that are faith associated, they listed 7 Christians, but forgot to mention the case of Harira Jubril, who was murdered, gruesomely murdered in Anambra, along with her 4 children. Fatima, 9 years old, Khadija, 7 years old, Hadiza, 5 years old, and Zaituna, 2 years old, and she was pregnant at the time she was murdered. They forgot also in the other appendices to make mention of the gruesome murder of Gulak, Ahmed Gulak in Imo State. They forgot also in that appendix to make mention of the gruesome murder of General Alik Ali, whose car was later on found in a mining pond, along with 4 other cars belonging to people that have gone missing. If such a person that wrote a legal brief that led to the United States of America declaring and naming Nigeria as a country of particular concern, even revisiting its policy on visas on this country, happens to be the chairman of our independent National Electoral Commission, then there is lot that is left to be answered.
Do you think the system would allow for Professor Joash Amupitan to bypass what is legally prescribed as the processes and procedures of our election for him to influence what actually happens on election day?
It is the person, his heart, his mindset. We are not talking about whether he is going to be able to influence
but is that possible?
No, we are not talking about whether he is going to be able to influence. What we are saying is he is ineligible to occupy that office for the treasonable act he has committed against the nation Nigeria.
You would call that legal brief a treasonable act?
It's a treasonable act because he is calling for foreign forces interference in the country. He is calling for sanctions against the country. He is calling for an international commission of inquiry on the country. Which of these is a lighter weight?
What do you say to people who would react to you this way and saying, listen, this ship has sailed. The president has made his decision.
The president has to reverse his decision.
And it doesn't look like he is going to at the moment.
He has to reverse his decision because I, as a citizen of the country, I, as a registered voter, I, as a
PDP member.
As a PDP member,
right.
And I, as a member of Project Nigeria Move Forward, I am not comfortable with Amupitan as INEC chair. And I believe there are millions others like me. And right. We are saying this because it is still in the kitty. If the president does act right, because it will get to the hot seat where these things will be expunged. A lot of people have not had time to sit down and read that 80-page document, which he sat down, doctored, and pushed to the international community to act on Nigeria, which were co-signed by a baroness and a retired senator and a bishop. A bishop that is heading the Catholic diocese in Plateau has forgotten to include the killing of General Ali, has forgotten to include the numerous atrocities that have been committed and perpetrated in the Plateau, has forgotten to include the issue of Zamani Lukot that happened in Kaduna, where he was convicted of murder, for it later to be commuted by President General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida at that time. He has forgotten to make mention of the culprits that perpetrated the dastard act of killing General Ali in cold blood, who were apprehended, but the instruments or judicial instruments in the state have frustrated their trial and conviction. And right. That is one of the recommendations that Joash Amupitan put in his concluding part, that people that have committed murder are walking freely, they are not charged, they are not convicted, they are not punished for their crimes.
Right, and you think this, in your view, and this is a particular issue that has been raised since his nomination was made, before his screening, even after his screening, when this legal brief came to light. The concern has been raised by a lot of people. However, if the president doesn't revisit this particular issue,
we'll continue to give it the traction that it requires, and any platform we are able to find ourselves on will continue to draw attention on this issue.
So it goes without saying that as long as Professor Joash Amupitan is in charge of the Independent National Electoral Commission, you question
nothing will
the
be
integrity
right.
of the process, the credibility of the outcomes.
People like me will question the outcome, will question the integrity, will question the credibility of anything that
How do you respond to people who say, listen, you're just trying to give a dog a bad name in order to hang it?
How can I give a dog a bad name when he used his own letter-headed paper? Drafted 78
But you do know how polarizing
pages.
This conversation is, because we can go about the whataboutism. What about this? What about that? And the other side could make the same argument. What about this and what about that?
Let the other side come and make the same argument. It doesn't matter.
And in a nutshell, that is what this particular argument is about, isn't it? That the goal of the process was to prove there was a Christian genocide, right? Not to prove that Muslims were also killed.
Not to prove that Muslims were all killed, and that brought out his bias. Because this is somebody that has stayed in the northern part of the country.
But not as INEC chairman. Isn't it?
He is ineligible to occupy that office of INEC chairman because he is not an impartial judge. He has already shown his selection. He has already shown his bias to the Nigerian Muslims because the lives of Nigerian Muslims do not matter to him. They can be killed, they can be slaughtered.
To say that?
Yes, that is what he stated. This is somebody that in the first page of that legal brief, ascribed by ethnicities as joiners in the Nigerian project, that we came into Nigeria from 19th century. I have my great-great-great-grandfather's grave that has passed away over 250 years ago. I can still take you there to the graveyard of my great-great-grandfather, and somebody is coming in the 2000s to ascribe to me the label which they are used to ascribing as settlers and indigents. He is now ascribing a settler verb to me, that we joined Nigeria in 19th century. 19th century started from January 1st, 1800 to December 31st, 1800. Usman Danfodio was born in Sokoto State in 1724. And the same person, without any legal backing, without any documentary evidence, without any historic profile, is saying that the Fulanis came to Nigeria in 19th century.
And you believe this? Like, I mean, you certainly don't think you're nitpicking the issue, but if you have to zoom out and consider the bigger picture.
What's the bigger picture?
Right? Is that when you zoom in, you would find dirt if you care to look for it on anybody. That there will be no saint that can be employed to run the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Who said so? We don't. You
believe that we can have saints to run INEC?
We don't have saints, but we have people that are above board. We have people that are clean.
You don't believe
this is somebody that took his pen, his time.
The National Assembly that looked into some of these concerns that might have been raised, the Department of State Security that have probably done their own background check, the profile of Professor Joash Amupitan.
Maybe they were looking elsewhere.
You believe you know more than the DSS?
If the DSS did not see this paper, which was submitted to the American
Isn't it at all
Congress,
possible that they have seen it and they decide their conclusion is that there's nothing to worry about?
Isn't there anything to worry about?
I mean, you have something to worry about, but you can't assume that everybody is concerned about this as you.
Isn't there anything to worry about when somebody will label a whole ethnic nationality in Nigeria as joiners? Isn't there anything to worry about when somebody suggests that forces be used on the territory of Nigeria, the United Nations forces, the AU forces, the ECOWAS forces? Isn't it something of concern that somebody is suggesting that sanctions be imposed on the state? These things are not concerning.
Yeah,
then what else would be concerning?
But wouldn't you also agree that there are people who share that view because of the current state of affairs in the country?
Who share what view? That Christians are being killed in Nigeria?
Exactly.
And then Muslims are not being killed in Nigeria?
Not necessarily.
When all the statistics have shown that more Muslims have lost their lives in the embargo that we are having, the security embargo that we are having now in Nigeria than Christians.
But do you also understand why?
We have to understand that life is life.
Yeah.
Whether be it the life of a Christian or be it the life of a Muslim. I have shown you clearly, they have cited instances across Nigeria of 7 ladies that were gruesomely murdered. All of them were Christians. All of them were women. But they forgot to make mention, or they absolutely, deliberately decided not to include the case of Harira Jubril.
But is it also fair to point out that you also can outrightly say that you care more about Muslim lives also?
All lives matters to me.
I mean, but you mention all these cases and you say, but.
Yeah, but they forgot to make mention of Harira.
Right.
Because she happens. What do you think?
So the victims that have been mentioned are not important enough for you to just stick with the argument?
Why would I stick to the argument? Because it is an argument that is being pushed to suggest that there is a Christian genocide.
All right. Which you disagree with?
Which almost everybody in this country disagrees with.
Not necessarily.
How can somebody like the Bishop Kwashi, who is from Plateau, ascribe these celebrity murders, if you can call them that, high-profile murders, and forget to make mention of that of General Al-Khali, and forget to make mention of that of Ahmed Gulak? I'm telling you now, without mincing words, that the life of a Christian staying in any part of Kano is safer than the life of a Muslim staying in any part of Plateau. You can go and fact check that. And I can tell you here, without mincing words, that the life of a Christian staying in any part of Katsina, is safer than the life of a Muslim staying in any part of southern Kaduna. And yet you say we will have no issues of concern when somebody is labeling us as murderers? When you say there is a Christian genocide, you are putting blood on the hands of Muslims in Nigeria, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, either by complicity, either by direct association, either by ignoring. We are not ignoring the fact that people are being killed. We are not complicit in the killings. We are not perpetrating the killings ourselves. And why should we keep quiet when somebody is trying to ascribe these kind of characters to us?
Right. So, in the final analysis, because we are running out of time, if the APC wins the election in 2027, you're essentially saying...
On what grounds will the APC win the election?
I'm saying if.
Well,
right?
the if should
so
be backed
hypothetically
up.
speaking,
hypothetically
speaking, anything could happen.
What will happen?
If the APC wins 2027, your logical conclusion is Amupitan rigged it for the APC.
Yes.
That's the only way the APC could win.
Because he is in tune with the government. This is the first government throughout the history of Nigeria that came out to release statistics of its appointees based on faith.
Do you know the last...
Are you aware of that?
Do you know the worst election we had on record?
Whatever the worst election we had in record, that same political party that gave you the worst election you had in the history of Nigeria gave you the best election you had in the history of Nigeria.
I'm asking you if you know the
I'm giving you an answer.
Yeah,
the same political party that you will ascribe to have given you the worst election in Nigeria gave you the best election in Nigeria.
But that wasn't my question.
Even if it's not your question, that's my answer.
Yeah, but you're deflecting.
I'm not deflecting.
I'm asking if you know...
I'm not deflecting. I'm even going a step further.
No, just
confirming what you have said.
Let's just answer the first question first.
I'm going a step further, confirming what you have said, that I know on record the worst election that ever took place in Nigeria. And I'm telling you that the administration that oversaw the worst election still, the political party that saw the worst election still gave you the best election.
Interestingly, I didn't ask you to equalize, but on record, the 2007 election is the worst one we've had yet. 2007 election.
And what was the best election we had?
I wouldn't be in a position to say that. I know of the worst. Why would
you be in a position to know the worst and not be in a position to know the best?
It's quite subjective.
Being the best is not subjective.
Because there are also a lot of people who have question marks about the imperfections of the 2015 elections, which I believe you're alluding to.
Despite the fact that the ruling party admitted, agreed,
the question is, you talk about the PDP not being in the gutters or still being able to, resuscitate itself.
I didn't talk about the PDP not being in the gutters. You said the PDP now is in the gutters. I said I agree with you.
You agree,
and we're trying to pull it out, and we'll pull it out of the gutters. Right. Because with this situation we are in is state-crafted, is state-instigated, is state-instituted.
And how do you assess the role of INEC in regulating political parties? Because that is also one of its constitutional mandates. It seems like the INEC
doesn't know what it's doing, because on one hand the INEC acknowledged, recognized the leadership of His Excellency Kabir Tanimu-Traki.
When did they do that?
As through the communication they gave as the PDP national chairman, and on the other hand they submitted the list of a candidate and they decided to reject it on the basis that there are cases ongoing in the courts.
Which is a fact, isn't it?
It's a fact.
Right.
But
So INEC is well within its legal rights.
No, it's not.
To make those
No,
points.
it's not. These cases that the INEC spoke about are at different levels of education. And these cases will continue. Even if you collect the gubernatorial candidate or the candidate that has been submitted by a political party, at the end of the day, who is going to lose? It's a political party that is going to lose if the courts decide that that candidate was not legally presented. It has happened numerously. We have had similar cases in Imo, where the governor was removed and the fourth candidate was said to have been legally elected. We have the same case in
You would
Plateau.
put that on INEC?
INEC is supposed to be an umpire.
Right.
INEC is not supposed to be a judge.
Right.
You cannot
And
be
the
a
courts
judge.
decided the PDP didn't even follow its own rules.
When?
In the cases that you've pointed out.
None of the cases has
the
been
Congress is in
adjudicate-
Plateau State.
None of the cases has been adjudicated completely.
So
INEC
you would
is
describe what the
acting
Supreme
on
Court...
the premise. INEC is acting on the premise that there are cases pending in the court.
Right.
So it's not going to collect the nomination of a candidate that was sent to it for a political
All right.
party. This
So,
is baseless.
Clearly you don't have confidence in INEC
I don't.
under Professor Joash Amupitan.
I don't.
However,
I don't.
How much of the percentage would you give to the PDP and its internal players as to why the party is in such a mess?
Well, you can't have a mess when you don't have internal forces that are complicit in having the mess. We had the likes of Wiki, who have turned the party upside down, and now they are also facing their own music in their own quarters. And luckily, he was a cancer, it was a trauma that we have been able to excise out of our party, and he can go anywhere he wants to continue to exercise his franchise.
Alan Jafar Sani, interesting conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you
Good to see you this
very
evening.
It's a pleasure.
Right. And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program Daily Politics. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.